Okay, so yesterday I found a bug that I'm going to tackle real quick before we go to fix our capstone crush. I noticed that if we are a capstone, we have two capstones on screen, we're actually able to pick up any capstone, even though it's white's move. We just picked up black's capstone, so we really need to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to do that real quick. I guess let's check which move type which movement event it allows us to do that in, and it's just a movement event 1. Right here, movement event 1. So we introduced that bug unintentionally when we allowed it. So we had initially allowed it because if we were surrounded by standing stones, we still wanted it to be able to be picked up, a capstone to be able to be picked up, even if it's surrounded by standing stones. So we added a code in there somewhere saying if it was a capstone, go ahead and make it a legal move, but we need to check the player type instead of just the stone type. So where do we do that? It's a movement event 1, I'm pretty sure. And this is our movement event 1. So where did we add that? Right here. Look, enables capstone to be a legal move even if surrounded by standing stone. So this is where the bug's happening. Now we need to do two different things. We need to set it to be equal to true. Player 1, if it's player 1 control, and then if it's player 2 control. So we can go ahead and just say if stone controls a capstone and player is equal to 1, that's not exactly it. We want to say we want to do something like we say if player's equal to 1. Player's equal to 1, that's white player. So if player's equal to 1, and we can say that grid at the IJ dot stone control, or stone, or it's not stone control, what is it? Stack control? I think it's stack control. That determines which player. Stack control would belong to black, or so look, let me see the dot stack control. I just want to find a place. Yeah, stack control is a string of black, or is a string. Okay, so that should be it. So yep, this is it. So if we're player 1 and our stack control that we're over is equal to white, then we would go ahead and make that grid a legal move if the stone control is also a capstone. And then we need to say else if player is equal to 2 and that grid as a stack control equal to black, then if our stone control is a capstone, then we would then make it a legal move. So now hopefully that fixes our bug for that. So 2 capstones, white's turn. We are indeed legal move true on the white capstone and not on the black. So let's try the other way around. Right. Cool. So it looks like we fixed that. That was easy enough. Okay, so now we're going to be doing... we've got to turn what we did yesterday into a function so we can use it in our other movement events. So if we take a look at what we did yesterday, it's all this stuff. Now all of this, it goes through all the edge cases. So this is the whole thing. So if I cut that and I make a stand-in here where we say capstone crush. If we call our function capstone crush, and we would pass it in an origin row and an origin column, which these would be the parameter names, but we would actually call this movement origin row, movement origin column. So that's a stand-in. So ideally we turn that whole brick of code into just this, saying, hey, we're asking the row we're at, like the row we're moving from, and we're checking the surrounding places for if it's a standing stone, and if it is, then go ahead and make it a legal move. So now we just need to flesh out that function, and then we can use that function in every movement event, passing in not the movement origin row every time, but the corresponding origin row, or not origin row, but the corresponding active grid that we're coming from. So either first movement row, second movement row, so on. So I'm going to go to the end of our functions and build us that new function right here. So it looks like this is our last function. Now we're going to give ourselves this new function called capstone crush, and it takes in an origin row and an origin column. And then here is the code for it, except we need to parameterize this instead of the old way of doing it. Okay. So, yeah, this is looking right. We just need to change all this stuff. So now instead of, we're going ahead. We're still asking about mouse stones, but every movement origin row here needs to be switched to this parameter. So movement origin row, will now get we'll now get origin row. So if I hit replace, nice. So we just want to do this. Every movement origin row is now an origin row. And then we need to change the column as well. Okay. Now we need to go back. Here we go. We need to replace every movement origin column with origin column. Now I can hit. Not right. Okay, here we go. So, find origin movement column. How come? There we go. We make it origin column. Cool. Okay. So now we've got our capstone crush function that does the same thing as we just had it do, except now we can actually control which grid we check it at based on the parameter we pass in. So on our movement event 3, we need to pass in our movement origin row and column. Movement event 4 or 5 or whatever it is, make our first movement row, so on and so forth. So I guess let's go back to where we implement this capstone crush. Now we're passing in our movement origin row and movement origin column at movement event 3, which I think is right. So let's test it and see if our function's working. And if we have a capstone, we can pick it up, and it looks like it is working because a capstone can move anywhere. Let's just see if it can move on top of another capstone, which it should not be able to, which it doesn't. And then if we pick a standing stone to crush, we can actually dump it on there. Let me double check that our capstone crush function is actually checking, yeah, that we have one occupant and the stone control is a capstone. Okay, cool. So now we can just simply run this function for every movement event subsequent where we're we need to run this event on any movement event that is responsible for dumping stones. So let me just double check what the next one would be. So if we've got okay, so if we pick this up, we would lock in our stones, and then we would lock in a direction. So here, movement event 3 was the first one. Now, movement event 5 would be the next one we need to check for capstone crush. So 5 would be the next one, and then 6 would be the next one. So 5 and 6. Now 4, we should write down what movement event 4 does, and it just locks in stones in hand after first movement, or I would say for our first movement or second movement, dropped in first movement. Pretty sure movement event 2 is where we lock in. Yeah, so drop in movement origin. Okay. So once this should really be called locks stones in hand for first movement. And then select first movement grid is our movement 3. Now, when we select our first movement, that's when we're doing a capstone crush. And that's we're not actually doing a capstone crush, we're just running our capstone crush function to determine if we could have a capstone crush. And it's not until we actually click on the legal move that actually happens, but we still need to implement where we actually flatten the standing stone to a lay stone. But let's just get it working first for the placement, then we'll worry about that. Lock stones in hand for the second movement. Now I think so yeah, I'm a little confused on where to put the next capstone crush, because we need to know if going into our second movement, yeah, so it's like once we lock in how many stones we have, once we lock in how many stones we have, then we need to check for our capstone crush. So let's see if our capstone crush will now work in a movement 5. So in order to test that, we would have a couple of stones, and then we would have a capstone on top, and then so this would be crush 1, this would be crush 2, which I just messed up. But yeah, I just messed that up. Okay, so let's say we've got a white, then a... So this moving into that would be our first capstone crush, but if we carry a capstone into it, we're able to now determine that if we have 1 at our hand at this point, by the time we lock in that move, which would shift us to movement 5, it should render this as a legal move, which it is not, but it's actually, it's not allowing us to go to a movement 5, even though we should be able to. And that's because the movement in front is a standing stone, which normally is a illegal move, but we need to add it so that saying, hey, if in our check illegal move functions, if we have 1 occupant and it's a capstone, then if that grid stone control is a standing stone, then it's actually a legal move. So we need to update our illegal move functions to incorporate this. So if we take a look at our illegal move functions, yeah, so look, it's checking here, saying, hey, if we're a stone control of a capstone or standing stone, then we can't move there in our next move. But that's not exactly true. We need to say, next move illegal, we need to say if the grid at our next move is a stone control that is equal to a standing stone, and our mouse occupants is only one, not the occupant class, but the actual occupants field is equal to 1, meaning we only have one stone, and that stone, mouse stones dot members in the first index, if that stone control is equal to a capstone. So like if the only stone in our hand is a capstone and the stone we're about to go into is occupied by a standing stone, then we're actually we're actually not off grid. And off grid is just a toggle we have to prevent players from going off the grid per se, like from going, past the 5th place or past the 1st place to the left. So I think this should fix it. What? I don't know what we did. I don't know why it's not liking that. We're missing an end somewhere, but I didn't delete any ends, so. Here. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and give ourselves a couple stones with a capstone on top. And we're gonna try to crush this standing stone one spot away from us. So if we... Oh God, why? It's because of what we just added. We're comparing the stone control. So I think we can do this. We can say because what's happening is it was asking if the space we were moving in had a stone control, which see, this bugs me. Like, I don't get why Lua would crash over that crap. Like, I'm asking it if it's equal to standing stone, and it crashes if it's a nil value, which isn't a standing stone, so just ignore it. But it crashes, so I don't get why it does that. So maybe we say if the grid at our next move row and column dot stone control is not equal to nil, then go ahead and do these two things. Let's see if we crash again. We do. Mouse occupants is a nil value. Why would that be the case? Mouse dot occupants dot occupants is a nil value. What am I missing here? Oh, mouse occupants, it's mouse stones. Gosh, that's dumb. Okay, hold on, let me get rid of this crap. Maybe I was completely wrong here. Yeah, mouse stones dot occupants, that's what we want. Okay. So, ideally, we're able to drop a stone here. And then, if we have one stone going into the next move, this should be legal. And it is not. It is not allowing us to go into movement 5, even though we have one stone. Maybe we check this first? No. I think we need to check this first, and we do an else if. So we can say, we check this one first. Say, hey, if we are, if our next move has a stone control of a standing stone and our mouse occupants equal to 1 and that member, see, I actually don't think we don't want stone control here, we want stone type. We don't assign stone control in a hand, I don't think. So we just want the stone type. But if we check that first, and then we can say else if it's a couch stone or standing stone, and otherwise we're not, only one occupant, then we're going to become off grid, which should stop us from moving there. So hopefully that'll do it now. Okay. So if we lock in all but one, we're still fucking damn it. We're still not able to lock in our movement event 5. So let's go to our movement event 4 and see what our enter logic looks like. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna say next move illegal gets run after we press enter and before going into yeah, we should not become off grid is the thing. Okay, I think we might need this next move off grid. We need to update this next move off grid function. Because we're doing the next move illegal, but we need to do the next move off grid, which I think I'm a little confused why we have two things like that, but next move illegal, we're doing it. Next move off grid. That makes sense, I guess. Next move off grid updates our next move variable based on our direction. And it switches our off grid to true if we're going to be off grid. So yeah, this should be okay. I don't get why it's not working. If I turn this off, we should be able to place it no matter what, right? So like, oh, come on. Okay. Yeah. See, so this is the one responsible for it, but if misunderstanding something. Maybe we can do, maybe we get rid of this. We keep our off-grid getting true if we're a capstone or standing stone, but then we only... Shit, no, we have to do it. Fuck. I don't know. I don't know, dude. I'm misunderstanding the order of operations with this next move illegal, I think. Now, the first time we do this is in a move in event 3, which is when we're selecting our first movement grid. Now, the thing is, next move illegal doesn't actually do anything to our legal moves. It only modifies our off-grid variable. And our next move off grid only updates our next move. So by the time, see, it's already, is it already messing up in an event 4? Let me see if the legal move status of a standing stone, moving onto a standing stone, gets true if we're moving a capstone there. So if we've got a capstone, yeah, we are a legal move. Yet, if we are moving a capstone, a whole space away, we are not a legal move here. So where is that going wrong? Because our capstone crush logic should be turning it into a legal move there. Unless we are doing that wrong. We just peek at our capstone crush function. We pass in the certain column, yeah, and then we turn into a legal move. So is there a place for overriding this legal move in our movement event 4? So the first thing we're doing, oh my god, we actually don't do a lot. You know, we've got our drop stone, pick up stone. And if we minimize this, all we do, we don't do anything to legal moves at all. Okay, so we need, this is what we need. Oh my god. Yeah, we need our function in movement event 4, which should fix our problem. But let's see. What are you? And it's not first movement row, we want next movement. Do we have our next movement row? I think we set our next movement in our next move off grid. Next move off grid, we set our next move row, next move column. So let's go back to our capstone crush implementation, or actually function call, and we say we don't pass in the first movement column, we actually pass in our next move row and our next move column. That should work. I'm hoping. So we have, let's say, a capstone here. We've got a standing stone over here, and we move a capstone singularly onto the next spot. And we're still not able to go to a movement event 5 because this is still a legal move false. What is going on? This should turn that into a legal move true. Now, the thing is, maybe we need to do this upon pressing enter, because it shouldn't make a difference. That shouldn't make a difference. I don't know. Yeah, pressing enter doesn't do anything for us if we have one capstone, and that's because pressing enter see, it should be this. We aren't off grid. Let's print up off grid and see if off grid is true or not, because this is the one that should be getting called there. So let's print up off grid and see. Off grid is on our debug 3, so we should be able to check. That just drives me crazy. Why would that happen? That should never happen. You run the same code twice and then different results. What am I doing? Okay. Off grid is false at the moment. Off grid becomes true right here at the end of movement event 2, which it should not be true. So we just need to fix that. So in our movement event 2, once we lock it in, why are we becoming off grid? The only thing that changes our off grid is our, god dang, man. Let's see, anytime we become off grid gets true. where are we doing that? We're doing that in a next move off grid. And that's about it, right? And next move illegal. So those two function, next move off grid, next move illegal, we're both using that. So in our movement event 3 here, it's actually before that. It's next move. See, that's so weird. Why would it become true in a movement event 3? Let me just see. So we're in a movement event 1, movement event 2. Now we're still legal move, or we're still off-grid false, yet in a movement event 3, we're still false. Movement event 4, we become off-grid true. So going from 3 to 4 is where we're becoming true on the off-grid, which is incorrect. So from 3 to 4, so right here, when we do this, when we do one of these things, now either our next move off grid, yeah, so it's like which line of code here is responsible for turning it into off-grid true. I think it's this next move off-grid, because look, right here we left a little note. If next grid stone control is capstone or standing stone, off-grid is true. But that's not necessarily the case. If we have one capstone in our hand, then it wouldn't be off-grid. So next move off-grid, let's check it out. Next move off-grid. See, and this has nothing to do with the stone type. It just has to do with if our grid's actually off the grid. If our next grid is off any legal grid, then we're off grid. It doesn't have anything to do with stone type. Yet this one, we're saying, oh, see, this is wrong. Yeah, this is wrong. Right here, we're saying if our next move is off grid. Yeah, this is wrong. So we need to just say, no, shit, hold on. What this is saying is, if we can, if our next move isn't off grid, but we already would know that with our off grid, so I think this is not a good thing to ask. Because we're checking this already right above. Now we can say if we've got stone control in our next move of a standing stone and we have one occupant, and that stone type is a capstone. Oh, I just thought of it. We're fucking up here by indexing our one member. I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, it's not. Our capstone member would be 2 in that scenario. But we need this to be adaptive based on our lowest milestone stack order, I guess. Yeah. And that should allow us to do it. We were hard coding in that index 1, which was not the case. Because just because we have 1 stone in our hand doesn't mean the index is 1. Let's see. You're kidding me, dude. What? 662? Gosh. 622. What? What? What is going on? Why would it crash? It has never crashed on the... Okay, just to see if we can actually fix this problem, I'm gonna hard code in the correct index because our lowest milestone stack order wasn't the answer. I don't think that's getting updated until we lock in our stones, so I think that's not giving the right answer. But if we go to our next move off grid, it's actually this one, our next move illegal. If I say hard coding in at 2, which will be correct for this current test but won't be correct in general, I'm gonna say we have... Dude. What is making us crash here? It's driving me crazy. This is driving me crazy. I don't know what's going wrong. What is going on? We can move a stone on there, no problem. We can move a stone on there, no problem. We can We can move a stone from here to there, no problem. Yet when we move a stone over here, we crash. Does it just crash whenever we move anything onto a corner? Probably. Okay, it's gotta be in our next move illegal that we messed up something. So we're gonna say, I don't think that's it, man. I don't think that's it. I don't think this is what was crashing us. I just don't know what else I did. Come on, dude. So... what if instead of capstone crush, we just don't capstone crush at the moment? Okay, so capstone crush is what's breaking it, but does capstone crush here break it? No. So it must be here. Now, instead of putting in our next move row, let's wait till we lock in our first movement row. And our first movement column. So those aren't locked in until we actually hit enter. Right? No, we actually have it. So maybe we actually run it right here. Because we just assigned... Actually, where are we doing that? Oopsie. Where do we assign our first movement row? Right here. So as soon as we do this, we're just going to run capstone crush on the new column. Let's see if that does it. We crash. This is... I'm so stupid. I had first move row that whole time, not first movement row, which is why it was crashing. But doesn't mean it's fixed now. Okay, we don't crash at least. Now, let's see if we're a legal move when we only have a capstone going into a standing stone. Location. We can't. We still don't. What the flip? So what if we take this back to where it was? Movement 4. Yeah, I'm gonna say once we lock in how many stones we have, we load up that capstone crush. Now let's see. Still not allowing me. So we're still getting off-grid true. Off-grid is true already. Yeah, we're already fucked. So, off-grid is false. Off-grid is false until we click. Now we click on a movement event 3, that turns us into off-grid true, which is incorrect. So when we already... It's gotta be our next move illegal, man. Our next move illegal has gotta be screwing it up. If we turn off next move illegal, off-grid false. Yeah, our next move illegal is messing it up. And it's because this members 1. Now, if we hard code this in at members 2, it should work. But it'll be incorrect for any other scenario. But, dude, it doesn't work still. What the fuck? Yeah, we don't... I don't think we have a stone control assigned for our mouse stones. We do. Well, we say we do. See, I don't think we actually do this. I don't think we have stone control for our mouse stones. Let's see when we copy over into our mouse stones. Do we copy over stone control? We do not. So what if we were to do that? So let's say mouse stone's stone control gets assigned to be whatever that current mouse stone's stone type is. Come on, dude. Let me print up our mouse stone's stone control and see if that's working. Such an annoying bug to fix. I don't get why this one's so annoying. It says mouse stone control is a capstone. Yet, we are already an off-grid true. Why? Because in our next move, illegal, which is where this is turning true, incorrectly, let's go back to doing this in an else if, so we don't accidentally set it true. We'll say if we only have one occupant. Oh, and you know what? I think that's the problem. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna take this out completely from this function. Now we're gonna become off-grid true. I think what's happening is we lock in off-grid based on the amount of occupants in our hand at the time of locking in our movement origin stones, but by the time we drop it, it doesn't update to be able to check whether or not we're off-grid anymore. So in our movement event 3, I feel like we need to ask a question. See, I don't want to do this so often, but we need to be able to swap off-grid to false if we have more than one stone in our hand. That won't fix it. That won't fix it. That'll just make more problems. What the fuck, dude? But the problem is, we're running this next move illegal based on how many stones we have in our hand. Not at the time of changing movement events, but not at the time of moving into the next movement event, which is when we need it. So I think so what's weird is that the legal move is still false. That's what's really confusing to me. So this is where it's messing up. I'm curious if we move only one capstone, but don't drop it just yet. This is still false, which is incorrect. I mean, fuck, I don't know. I thought that would fix it because we only had one occupant in our hand by the time we select our first movement grid. God damn it, this is so tough. I think we determined that this is the problem, though, because when we turn that off, we can pick up this stone, drop one. Oh! Yeah. So that, if we take off that next move illegal, it works, but that makes it crash on other things like this, or if we try to move this, well, yeah, I think that literally just makes it so that we can walk all over capstones no matter what stone we are. Yeah. But we need to only do that if we're not. So what if instead of running it here, or instead of doing this willy-nilly, we just say, hey, if our mouse stones occupants is equal to 1, and our mouse stones dot stone control is equal to a capstone. Don't do this. Don't run this, but we would have to say if this does not equal to 1 and it does not equal to capstone here, then we do that. So let's see if that prevents us. It should prevent us from So yeah, I mean, the problem is legal move status of the next movement grid is dependent on how many stones are in your hand and the stone control of the topmost stone in your hand. So it's just so complicated because you can... A capstone has to move by itself in order to crush a standing stone. But we can't just flip our next move illegal to be true if we have one in our hand, because if we have more than one in our hand, it needs to flip back to false. So this next move illegal is a terrible name for this function because it's checking. Our next move off grid is what's determining whether or not our next move is off grid. But we're using the same variable to stop us from locking in a further move. if the stone around us, if the stone we're going into, if the grid we're going into is a capstone or a standing stone. So and we can't just ask it once here depending on what's in our mouse stone hands, because we haven't actually locked in our final amount of mouse stones in our hand yet. So I don't like that this is called next move illegal. It should be called next move. I don't fucking know. Yeah, this is an awful name for this though, because it's not just. This should be called enforce drop if. I don't know. I don't know. Enforce drop if next movement is a freaking standing stone or capstone. But yeah, I think the problem is we lock in our off-grid status before we even decide how many stones are in our hand. So it's like anytime okay, so what if okay. So what if we keep this as is? We become off-grid true if we're surrounded, but then depending on in our moving event 3, I think either yeah, I think our movement event 3 is when it swaps. So yeah, I think we just need to do this once we click instead of hi sweetie. Hi baby. Ooh, hi. So cute. Yes. Okay, I think all we need to do is put this once we click in a legal move. And I think that might fix it. Except we're not checking the first movement origin row at this point, actually. Is that our first capstone crush? See, we can't do this here. Fuck. Oi, 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 oi. My brain. Capstone crash will turn our legal moves. We'll assign our legal moves appropriately depending on where we click, but then once we click, I feel like our next capstone. We're not even doing our second capstone crush. We're not even doing our second capstone crush. Right? No, we are. But I think we, just like how we use our first capstone crush when we swap to a movement event 3, which is... Oh, I think that's wrong. Anytime we drop See, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. Okay, I think what needs to happen is we need to find out a better place to put this capstone crush. But the thing is, this capstone crush only gets called. Actually, it's getting called every frame here. But it doesn't falsify our legal moves depending on how many mouse occupants we have. So so it's busted. Movement 3 has capstone crush being called every single frame. Doesn't even work. This is so beyond jacked. I'm very disheartened right now. What the fuck? What the fuck, dude? Yeah, I think we need to do this. We need to do this once we know how many occupants are in our hand. Once we lock in our amount of occupants in our mouse stones, that's when we use capstone crush. So we need to use this first capstone crush once we lock it in here, right? Because this is lock stones in hand for first movement. So once we hit enter, right before we go to a movement 3, we need to lock in our capstone crush. So let's see if that allows us to crush the very next space. Does not. It's because weren't we able to do this? Weren't we able to do this? How come I can't even get any capstone crush to work at this point? Give me a break, dude. Give me a freaking break. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. Like, I feel like things break and work without me changing any given thing. We cannot capstone crush there. Yet. If we're in a movement 3. We can do it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Let me look at capstone crush logic again, I guess. See, so this is jacked because even though it works in that scenario, if we have a stack with a capstone on it, capstone crush isn't working. Like, capstone crush will allow us to do that even though our capstone crush logic is defined by saying we are only a legal move true if our occupants are equal to 1 in our mouse stone. Oh. Our edge cases are not in that. We only have... Wow. We need to take... What the fuck? What the fuck is going on, guys? Oh, that's all closed. What the hell is going on to me? Okay. So we take this end out so that this is doing capstone crush only for every case if our occupants equal to 1. So now it shouldn't allow us to capstone crush with more than 1 stone in our hand, which is only one of the problems we need to fix. So now, when we lock this in, we can't move here, which is right. But if we have only 1 stone in our hand by the time we go to move, and I just messed it up. What is going on? Then we can capstone crush. Okay. But, and here's what. Let me think. If we go to do this, we move to drop it to 1. Okay. So yeah, it's only when we lock it in. Okay, so I think we need to run... I don't like that we're running this capstone crush every single frame. We should be able to run it only when we're about to go to movement event 3. So we're setting our moves to be legal there. Yet, that doesn't seem to work. Oh, it's working. Okay, so we should only run this once, right when we lock in the amount of stones we have. So now we have to wait until we lock in the amount of stones we have, and then lock in our capstone crush like we're doing here. But we have to do it right before we increase our movement event. So we won't need a capstone crush if we dumped all of our spaces, but we need to do it right here after we update our first movement. And actually I think it's our second movement. Nope. We're locking in. Let's try it with first movement first, and then we'll try second movement if that's wrong. Let's see. So now we're already fucked up. We're already off grid. Fucking shit, dude. Holy fuck. Our off grid is not working right, which means it's our next move off grid isn't working right. Our next move illegal, rather. So we only need to run this. So what we need to do is only run this next move illegal in our movement event 4, depending on how many stones we have. So if at any point in time in our movement event 4, if our mouse stones dot occupants is equal to 1 and the mouse stones dot occupants, no, mouse stones dot stone control is equal to a capstone, then we don't want to run this illegal move function, but we would want to make them illegal in every other case. So I'm hoping this prevents our off-grid from being true as soon as we pick this up, as soon as we lock this in. Okay, it isn't. So now, okay, it's right there when we click it. When we select our first movement is when it's going wrong. So when we select our first movement is when it's going wrong, which is right here under the mouse press, which was where this used to be. We need to say, hey, we only next move illegal if we have something other than one occupant of a capstone in our hand. So now I'm hoping it'll be illegal move false, or off-grid false, when we select our first movement grid with a capstone there. So debugging 3 here, off-grid is false. Off-grid is false. We lock it in. Off-grid is false. Now when we click on it, off-grid is true. That's where it's messing up. So that doesn't fix it. Yet when we turn this off, yep, when we turn that off, it's working correctly, but it would make any stone able to go on a standing stone, which is incorrect. But why does it not work? If by the time we click it, our mouse stone occupants is 1. Yeah, that's not right. It's not if by the time we click on it, it's... Yeah. It's not if by the time we click on it, it's by the time we lock in. By the time we lock in our movement event 5. So we need to say something. We need to say something in... Shit, man. Yeah, we need to do something that will falsify a legal move and truthify a legal move, depending on how many occupants are in our hand at any given moment. Not any given moment, just when we lock it in. Okay, that should be simple enough. All right, sweetie. Love this kitty. Okay. Hi, baby. Because it is okay for off-grid to be true if we have more than one occupant in our hand in that scenario. We just need it to be false if we have one occupant and that occupant's a capstone and the next movement is a standing stone. So we need to do something special. So if by the time we lock it in, see, we need to do something before we check our off-grid status, because our off-grid status could change depending on how many we actually lock in. So actually, yeah, if it's off-grid. Okay, so we would do it here. If it's off-grid, we need to check to see if we need to turn off-grid back to true if we had only one occupant. So we can say if our mouse stone dot occupants, and it's not just one occupant, it's one occupant and that occupant's stone control would be equal to a capstone. So if enter's pressed and we're off-grid, we're going to see if off-grid gets true. And off-grid only gets true if it's a stone stack, or a capstone crush event. So if we switch it there, maybe it'll work for us. So we are off-grid false, yet once we click on this, we'll become off-grid true, which is not working now. We're not actually running this. Okay, we need to go back here. We need to run next move illegal here to prevent us from any stone going over a standing stone. Okay, now let's see. Off-grid is false. We lock in our stones. Now once we click on this, off-grid should become true because we have two stones in our hand, which is true. But if we have only one stone in our hand and then we lock it in, we should be able to place it here. Not happening. Not happening. And it's because it all happens here. Well, we come off grid, but then we were off grid, so it would continue to do this, which would do nothing. But the thing is, we didn't become off-grid true is the thing. We didn't become off-grid true, which should have been the case. Oh, off-grid false. That's what I mean. Jesus. Okay. You know, just the opposite. Okay. So off-grid false. Now we lock in our stones. It'll be off-grid true when we click this, which it is. And if we were to hit enter, it does nothing. If we were to drop one stone, hopefully it comes off-grid false. It does. We just don't advance our... we just don't advance our movement event. So we would need to advance our move event in this case. So when we advance our movement event like here, we need to do that also in an off-grid case. This is a special case that we would actually increase our movement event at this point in time. Okay, now let's see. So, lock in our stones. We are an off-grid true, but if we were to lock in, well, let's see. Yeah, if we were to have one capstone by the time we enter this, it should go to a movement event 5. And it crashed. We're not passing anything to next move off grid. So hard to find my place anymore. Here. Oh. We need to do this, I think. We basically need to do everything we do here in this scenario as well, after we switch to off-grid false. let's see. So that worked. Now let's see. We can't move onto a standing stone. That's good. I think it worked. I think it worked. Let's see if the next one is also... Actually, yeah. You can only crush on your last move. Yeah, you can only crush on your last move because the capstone has to move by itself in order to crush. So if we switch to moving at 5... Yeah, why? I'm confused why it even works now, because if we capstone crush, we need to swap our player, basically. We didn't even... I'm not even relieved. I'm not convinced we fixed it. A capstone crush, our function for capstone crush only makes legal moves when there otherwise was not one. So let me test if we were to have a couple of stones here. And then we had capstone. Now, if this is a standing stone, we shouldn't be able to crush if we have something in our hand. So if we try to lock in that many stones, it won't let us. If we try to lock in that many stones, it won't let us. If we try to lock in this many stones, it actually does let us, which would crush it. And then, I guess I don't get when we're switching players. When are we switching players? Because we're just moving to a movement event 5 at that point. And we only switch players so off-grid must be getting... No, fuck. I'm not convinced it's fixed. I'm not convinced it's fixed because we're not... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced it's fixed, even though it's working right now. Because I don't get why it's actually swapping players. When do we... By the time we press enter... Oh, no, we do... No, we don't swap players. See, this is jacked. We shouldn't have to update... We shouldn't have to update our directions because we're not moving anymore, because if enter's pressed and we had one occupant... No, wait. Oh, yeah, we would. Okay, let's move. Okay. I still don't get why we're swapping our player. Because we swapped to movement event 5. But then we actually continue. Movement event 5, and it would still go through this block. Yeah. Okay. And then our mouse occupants would be 0, so that's when we're swapping. Okay. All right. So we've got capstone crush for the first space and the second space. but we still need it for the next spaces. Now, in the past, we did capstone crush right here when we locked in the amount of stones in our hand. So once we hit enter on the amount of stones in our hand, we did a capstone crush, which would truthify anything. Yeah, and you know what? The capstone crush, we ended up not really using this. We used this to set. I don't know, man. I don't know. We ended up kind of bypassing this for the second one. Because what we did was, instead of using that to determine what's legal or not, we actually just check by the time we press enter if by the time we press enter right here, then we're no longer off grid. So that's kind of just, we just kind of bypassed our capstone crush logic in that way. Which I guess is fine because we needed it for the initial legal move retruthifying. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something I'm missing about a better way to implement this, but it's so complicated, I'm not sure where to go about it. Right now, we are it's working. I don't know how extensively that's the case, but it's working. That's a brutal day, but it's at least working, and then we can continue on and try to get the next movements working. What's so complicated is that it's not just that. Yeah, it's not. I don't know how to explain it. But we fixed it here. We fixed it by doing this, where if we're off grid, well, we would become not off grid in a certain scenario, and that scenario is in a capstone crush scenario. And our capstone crush function was kind of doing the same thing, where it was bypassing this, but that wasn't being updated in the game loop depending on how many were in your hand at any given moment. So since we weren't doing that, we kind of did it here instead. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna commit with a message saying added capstone crush for second movement. I'm still not convinced it's perfectly working, but it does seem to be working, so we'll take that. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's getting really hard for me to continue work on this. It's just like headache after headache after headache, but we're almost done. We're so close to being done. So we'll power through. Yeah, see you tomorrow.